Welcome to Backstage, small church, big vision. Just because you're small doesn't mean you can't have big vision.
If you're a small church leader and you want to have big impact, this podcast is for you. So let's get into it.
What's up, Backstage Leaders? I'm Andrew Gravagna.
And I'm Kevin Gollihue.
And today we're going to continue our discussion on assimilation.
That's right.
We're going to be talking about 5 steps of how to get someone from a guest to an inviter.
But before we start that, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get all notifications of all the videos that we put out. So now let's get into lose, learn, win. So Andrew, do you have any losses from this week?
Yeah, of course. I always get my L's, take my L's.
Big L's.
So we've been training some people back in AV, right?
Yep.
And so I've been doing Pro Presenter 7, by the way, is amazing. It has so many cool features on it.
Yes, it does.
But the problem is if you forget a cool feature, it could screw you up. So I'm leading worship, and we do preset cues for our lyrics on Sunday. And so
what does that mean for people who don't understand?
So basically we use Ableton to run our tracks and clicks. And we use a MIDI cue that hooks up into our computer in worship.
Yeah.
And it hooks up into our computer in AV that has Pro Presenter on it, and basically just runs the slides. So nobody has to touch. So nobody has to touch a lyric. Ooh, if you don't have somebody to do that, that's an awesome way to do it.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so I had that going.
Yeah.
But what I forgot to do is that Pro Presenter 7 has a cool feature where you can add an action on a slide. Right?
Yeah.
And so I forgot to add the action to clear the announcement slide. So every time a lyric would go, it would trigger back to the announcements.
Oh no.
And then my dad is trying to go back there trying to fix it, and they kept messing up different ways. And then another video came up, and then oh my gosh, it was a disaster. I think I heard my dad go, "What the heck?" in the back.
What song did it stop working on? What was the name of the song? Do you remember?
My Testimony by Elevation. The first
great song. I like that song.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Well,
this is my testimony.
Yeah, man.
From lyrics to none.
Well, to my win, our church win, we had a person that came back there for the 3rd time to church.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's been developing some really good relationships in the church. They started loving the church, and our welcome team has been doing such a great job following up on them.
That's assimilation, people.
Assimilation.
That's right.
Yeah, building relationships and really giving that step-by-step process and that it's been really well. It's been going really good, man.
That's awesome. So I don't necessarily have a loss, actually. What I do have is I took a loss from the past. I looked at it. I looked at the situation differently, and I adjusted it, and I turned it into a win. So as a lot of you know, we do Bridge Kids services outside now to, it's easier for parents to bring their kids if it's outside, if they feel more comfortable. Understandable. But we started adding worship dancing to the service. And so the kids weren't used to that at first. And, we would have our volunteers, me, my wife, Teresa, we'd be up there looking a fool, right? And the kids sometimes wouldn't be dancing. But on the drive to church, this wasn't, I thought about it. It literally, the Holy Spirit gave it to me in one moment. And I just thought about it. I was like, maybe the dances we're doing are too complicated and they don't know the dance. So what if for the verse, the chorus, and the bridge, we have a specific dance thing that you can do, and we teach them that before the song, and then scream it out that we're going to do it during the song. So as the chorus is coming, we could say, all right, everybody, make sure you pump your fists in the air for the next part or something. And oh my goodness, all the kids, the kids that were just sitting there 2 weeks ago, they were like,
yeah,
woo,
that's awesome.
Oh my goodness, it was so amazing to see the kids, because the kids are watching the videos at home, and we have lyric dance videos that we send out each and every week during our kids service videos, but when they come, they're not doing them. But we simplified it, and we taught it to them before the song, and now they're doing it. It's amazing. But yeah, so I took a loss and I adjusted it and I turned it into a win, which is the whole purpose of this segment, is how to lose and learn from it and turn it into a win. So that's exactly what I did.
Exactly what you did.
But before we get into our main topic of the day of assimilation and the 5 steps, I just want to remind everybody to follow us on all social media. Also, make sure you subscribe to us, hit the bell so you get all notifications of every video that we put out. If you are an audio listener, make sure that you give us a 5-star rating and review if you feel like we're a blessing to you or we could be a blessing to someone else. And if you do think we could be a blessing to someone else, press share and just send them the video. All right, so let's get into the 5 steps of assimilation.
If you missed last week's episode, we talked about what assimilation is and why we should do it. If you want to check that out, it's going to be right above Kevin's head. Right here. Boom, right there. And so now let's get into it. 5 steps of how to get somebody from a guest to an inviter. Step 1, partner with the congregation.
That's good.
Don't wait to be the official greeter. Even if you're not a greeter or welcome person, you can still be that person. You don't have to be on a team, right? You don't have to be that greeter of the week. We are all the welcome team. And so if you're a leader or a pastor, you can encourage your congregation, or you should encourage your congregation to be that welcome person, to make relationships in the church and make some friends. It might be really cool.
Yeah. It's not wrong to say from the pulpit. It really isn't.
It isn't.
It isn't.
Right?
Yeah.
What we do here at Connect Church, we do, well, so far, we started this video. I know you, because we're in quarantine and we're in social distance COVID phase, right? We did a bumper video right after the first song to basically,
it's great.
Yeah, basically introduce yourself, wave to somebody for it's like what 15 seconds.
Yeah, Andrew's doing it, and it's a great idea.
It's just cringy to me because I'm doing it.
It's a great idea, and he's like, oh, wave to people like this.
Yeah, find some.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
It is perfect.
No,
and it gets
it's
people,
great.
It's like a cool icebreaker too.
Oh yeah.
Right. I know a lot of churches that do it, especially big churches. They do like a greet 3 people in 30 seconds.
Yeah, 3 and 30. I've heard it called. 3
Remember
and 30.
You told me about that.
3 and 30.
I love that.
Yeah, something like that.
Find somebody new. Introduce yourself, and that's such a cool way of partnering with your congregation. Of making everyone comfortable, and it's not forced, but it's like an organic relationship with somebody.
Yeah, something like when people are they just look. Sometimes when you're in the congregation, you can just not think about who's looking at you, and you're just like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, do your thing, right? The congregation can do their thing, but just maybe tell them, like, if you smile, it's a lot more welcoming to people who need Jesus.
It is. It is. If we look like a... You gotta make sure your church doesn't look like a boring group of people.
Yeah.
Like, make it fun.
Jesus is fun.
He is fun. Who created...
He's alive.
Listen. If you think we're the only ones that are fun and God's not, come on.
Yeah.
Right? Have fun in church. Make sure that we make our congregation feel like, make them have fun.
What do you think is a good way for our backstage leaders here to implement that, though? Because it's easy to say, let's say it from the pulpit. It's easy to say, tell people to not just look dull, be smiling and wave. What's a good way that a pastor who's listening could start implementing that tomorrow? Yeah,
I think one great way is if you have a small group or small group leaders, or if you are one, you can practically teach them and partner with them in their small group, where you can teach them, hey, if you see somebody, like, this is because small groups is where you show your heart, the mission, the vision of the church, right? Yep. And you talk about what our heart is. If our heart's to get people to come to the church, stay in the church, serve in the church, and then invite somebody, right? Yep. How do you get somebody to do that? And we talked about how making a relationship with people. And so if you teach the people in your small group to find somebody that's new on Sunday. New. Yeah. If you see somebody that's new, go and introduce yourself. Yeah. If you're a small group leader who's been trying to do that, and maybe your pastor's been telling you to tell your small group leader to do that, that's a good idea. And if your pastor's telling you to do that, that's amazing. But if you're that small group leader who's struggling with but I keep telling them week in, week out, but they're not doing it, practice what you preach. Yeah.
grab them along. Say, hey,
go.
hey, remember last week I was talking about how you could talk to newcomers when they come in, but you were saying, oh, it's too hard, I don't know how to. Well, just follow me, right? Sometimes it's easier to talk to a newcomer when there's multiple of you. It's not just one-on-one, and it can feel sometimes really, really pressure to entertain the new person, right?
Yeah.
So if you pull someone in your small group aside and do it, it'll be easier for them.
Yeah, and again, we're learning with you, and so I don't know about you, but I had so many times where I just where it kind of feels forced, right, to talk to somebody, and it's weird, right? And that's such a cool way of, like you said, it's like they don't feel pressured. It's
you already
like a one-on-one.
Rapport. You already have rapport with the person. Like if I'm if Andrew's in my small group, I say, listen, come with me. I already have a relationship with you.
Yeah.
So that if something falls stale and weird and awkward with the newcomer, we could just talk to one another and bring them in, sort of thing.
Yeah. And so that visitor's gonna be like, hey, those guys are cool. I'm coming back.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to do it. But step 2 would be have a place for them to go. Yeah, so it's very important to have a place for your newcomers to go. It's really easy for churches to not really think about that. It's easy for us to say, okay, well, if you're a visitor, newcomer, whatever you want to call them, come in, sit in the seat, and then just leave. That's not strategic, that's not intentional, and that's not great assimilation. Have a welcome center. Have a place. Have somebody man the welcome center. Don't just have it be a place where papers are there to talk about the ministries that you offer. Have somebody there to get their contact information, and don't turn it into a checklist. Don't turn it into, okay, what's your name, your number, your email address. And you can give them a form to do that, and that's fine.
Right.
That's actually more practical, let's be honest, because if they tell you their phone number, you're not going to remember it. So you need to do that. But for stuff like if they have kids, you want to make sure the youth pastor can contact them. You want to make sure the children's pastor can contact them. If they mention that, oh, at another church I've done worship, maybe you want to send them to the worship pastor. But make it organic. Talk to them. Say, oh, hey, nice to meet you. I see you have a kid there. How old is he or her? And then, if the child is children's ministry age, give information to the children's pastor. Let the children's pastor reach out to them. Right. And so, but that also brings us to another important part of this. If you have somebody manning the welcome center where they're getting information about them organically, and that's the key part, organically. Don't turn it into a checklist. Just have a conversation with them. Get to know the people. Have some form of system, maybe like a Google Sheets, Google Doc, maybe Planning Center. I don't know, whatever you do, you just need to organize who's coming in and out of your church, their information, so that you can give it to the pastor or to the ministry leader who needs to assimilate them, who needs to contact them, who needs to follow up with them. There needs to be a place for them to go, and getting all of that information is important. And if you have someone at a welcome center, that's where you're going to get that information. So that's why it is very, very, very important to have a place that is strategic and intentional in your sanctuary, in your hobby, in your welcome area, that is specifically for guests and visitors, that is manned to talk to the new people coming in.
That's good. And it's like, also make sure that you have somebody there that's happy.
That's happy. Yes.
Because I know sometimes people, I feel like, I don't know, my church, in the beginning, it felt like people were getting forced into it. And
you have someone who's not bubbly and not smiley, and they're getting the job done, but
who wants to, yeah, exactly, who wants to come to the church when it's like,
no. Yeah.
So putting people where their best fit is also amazing. And if you have somebody that loves to meet new people, that loves to connect with people, welcome centers are a great spot for them.
Perfect for them if they have a bubbly attitude or they just smile constantly.
Yeah.
Or maybe someone needs to fake it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
you may not have that volunteer who's naturally bubbly.
But make sure they know they had to fake it.
Yeah, make sure they know they need to fake it. I worked at Chick-fil-A. We're taught to do that.
My pleasure.
That's right.
But that brings us to our third step. Step 3, follow up.
Follow up.
Yeah, so just follow up with them. And there's no wrong or right way to follow up with someone. Just follow up. We can give
Follow up.
examples. Like you could text them because now you got now you got their contact. Especially if you have planning center.
If you did step 2 correctly, yep.
Yes, you got their contact. You you might have their address. Something to contact them with. Right. You got their phone number, so you can text them. You can call them. You can email them if you have your email in their contacts. And you can also, I like this. You can give them a handwritten letter.
Yeah.
In this day and age, where we talk about all the time, it's like texting and calling could be, it's common. So when you give a handwritten letter, it can feel a lot more personal.
Yeah.
And so I'll encourage you guys, if you can, once in a while, send a handwritten letter.
In a while, yeah.
Somebody might be like, actually take it in a really good way and be like, hey, this church cares to me about that much.
Yep.
They give me a handwritten letter with my name on it. That's pretty
awesome.
sweet, right? And so that's something that maybe somebody wants to come back for. It's important to follow up with that. Have a leader or those in small groups, connect with them.
Yeah.
Connect with them into small group. So they can develop a relationship with somebody.
Yep.
They might meet a friend there, whatever it is, or relate with somebody that's that when they're new. And you can follow. It doesn't just have to be in person, right? It can be over text over the week.
Yeah, that's
Text
why
them.
step 2 is very important. Get their information. You have to be able to information to follow up.
Yeah, just follow up. Follow up is so important. You can do. I know. We talked about also pizza with pastor. I think it's such an amazing. You want to talk about that? Because I know you have a really good experience.
Yeah. So we used to do. I worked at a church in Philly. We would do something like this, pizza with a pastor, where the church was a little bit larger, and we would get about 30 newcomers that came that month. We would contact them about 2-3 times, about 4 times once a week, and remind them that this upcoming Sunday afternoon is Pizza with the Pastors, where you could come learn about the church, learn about the pastors, learn about our mission and our vision. It's just a way to clearly communicate who we are and why you as a newcomer should come on board, because we're doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's personal, it's intentional,
it's perfect.
and you get to know the pastor, which is important.
At the church I'm at now, Bridge, we do something similar called Bridge 101. It's perfect. We don't call pizza with the pastor, but we get pizza, we sit down, we just talk, and we get to know the person. It's great being at a level where we can sit down with like 5 or 6 people and get to know them personally, and then plug them in.
Yes, so important.
Perfect.
So important.
That's right. But for sure, that brings us to our next step. Step 4 is plug them in. So plug them in.
Yes.
The most important part of this step is that you do not waste time. If they've expressed any interest of being plugged into a small group, into a ministry, take the responsible precautions, right? Do a background check, get to know them, but don't waste time. Start the process of getting them to serve and to be plugged into the church today, because quickly somebody who has talent, somebody who has leadership qualities, they would leave your church if you're not using them. I'm not going to lie. That's just reality. If they've expressed an interest of being plugged in deep into your church and you guys aren't capitalizing on that, you're going to lose them. Yeah. Don't waste time. I would say one of the first and important things to do is get them into a small group. I hope your church is doing small groups. That's a fantastic way to disciple your church and also to communicate the mission and the vision a little bit more intentionally. Get them plugged into a small group and be smart about that too. We're a church of about 100, excluding kids. We have about, I want to say four or 5 small groups, but they've all naturally become their own thing. Like we have one that's like, it's not exclusive, but it turned out that we have a small group that's for newly married young adults. So like if somebody comes in and they're newly married young adults, get the small group leader to talk to them, to communicate with them. If they're a little bit older and you have a group that's so happens to be a little bit more older, talk to them. Be strategic about it, but get them plugged in today. Get them serving. Again, I'm not saying put a non-believer up on stage to play bass. I'm not saying put someone who hasn't been background checked in children's ministry today.
Right.
But what I'm saying is start the process. You brought this up earlier. allow them to shadow potentially. Like if they want to do something in AV, allow them to sit in the sound booth,
Yeah.
watch you mix the sound in the house. Allow them to watch how you do the lyrics, the slides, Pro Presenter.
In some way, plugging them in, right, will keep them staying at the church.
Yeah, they're going to start to get
they feel
rooted.
value.
Yeah, that's
valuable.
what they needed. You need to imagine if they're a plant, if their roots aren't growing deep, they're going to be easily taken out of the ground. You need them to plant roots, and so shadowing is a good way to do it. Now, also, don't just fill a position. Be strategic about it. Like you said earlier.
Clean the bathrooms. I don't know.
Yeah. If it's
They
clean the bathroom, that's fine. Making coffee, show up 15 minutes early to make coffee is fine.
Perfect.
But don't put someone who's like naturally like stank face or whatever necessarily in greeting. I'm going to be honest, right? People think, oh, put them to wave and say hi to people. No, they're the face of your church. When someone new comes in, you want them to be naturally bubbly and hello. And if you don't have somebody like that, I worked at Chick-fil-A. You could train that some way, somehow.
Pleasure.
That's right, my pleasure. But also, and this is important to me as a pastor, and I know it's important to you too. If that person has leadership qualities and potential, take advantage. That is someone that God has given you that could be a potential pastor in your church. That is someone that God has given you that could be a potential person who could have a calling into ministry. You do not know the potential for someone until they are assimilated in. Take advantage of people with leadership qualities.
Yeah.
Because we, as pastors, we are all about developing leaders. Because someone with leadership qualities, if they're not getting plugged in, they're going to quickly leave and find somewhere else where they can get plugged in.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's what it is. That's what it is, man. And so we go to our last step 5, inviter.
That's right.
Inviter. People aren't fully assimilated unless they're inviting their friends, their family, or strangers. They haven't fully bought into the mission and vision of the church, right? It's got to be, the mission and vision of the church has to be getting other people to bring people to the church, expanding the family of God, expanding the church, so we can
all about life change.
Yeah, so we can get the message to people, right? And so it's important to encourage people to invite their fans, family and their friends and strangers. It can be hard, but if you use these steps, it can be so valuable to the church and to your life.
Now, these 5 steps, they're not just like the one way to do it, right?
No.
We've done research. We've pulled out our own personal experiences. Use your culture. You know your culture better than we do. Maybe some of these things won't work, but apply it, right? If you have an older congregation in an older area, maybe texting them won't necessarily be the best way to officially contact them.
Right.
Maybe email, maybe calling them, maybe handwritten letters would be. Find a way to apply this to you. It's not the number one way to do it, but these are just the 5 steps that our research and experience say works really well.
Yeah, and we hope this really does help you guys. We've like we said, we've gone through it all, whether it's texting, calling, following up with people. But the whole point is relationships matter.
Relationship is key.
Get to know your visitors. Get to know the people that walk into the church. You never know who you might affect and who might come to your church. And so now let's get into the question of the week. All right, so question of the week. Would you rather fly or be invisible?
I'd rather be invisible. You know why?
Why?
I could figure out who my real friends are, and which sister I'd like more. So if you're listening, be careful what you say. I'm kidding. No, you get to know what people think about you when you're not there.
Weird.
Also, you could go to the zoo and you could pet animals that you've always wanted to pet. I've always wanted to pet a giraffe. I don't know why.
Imagine petting a lion. That'd be sick.
That'd be
That's
really
good.
sick. But yeah, that's why
good,
I
but
would
you're crazy though. I'd definitely fly, bro.
Yeah. Okay.
Why though?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't want bugs in my mouth.
Just keep your mouth closed. Listen, if Superman looks like that cool flying,
He does look cool.
I'm flying.
He can even like turn back time because he goes.
That's what I'm saying. How
Yeah,
fast?
it's cool.
Imagine you could fly that fast. That'd be sick,
I get it.
right? You have to fly fast in order to fly.
I know. I know. Listen.
Fly.
Listen, so I'd rather be invisible. Andrew would rather fly. Let us know what you would rather do in the comments below. But also, if you are a pastor or ministry leader, if there is a step to assimilation that we might have missed or that you feel like didn't work for you, let us know in the comments below. Let us know any thoughts, anything you have, because, again, we're on the journey with you.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, this is not like do step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5, and
that's
perfect
it.
assimilation process. No, that's not
No.
it. Assimilation is dirty. You get into the muck
Absolutely.
of things. You get to learn people, and you get into the nitty gritty of their lives. So there are some things that we might have not put here. But if you have something, please let us know. We would love to learn, because we're learning just like you are.
Right.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week, and we're out.